simple way of doing that is taking really good, clear, honest pictures. Right.
You can take honest pictures.
Absolutely, because I feel like you can take deceptive pictures, right?
Oh, okay.
You can make the lighting a little bit, right? You can make sure that the angle is that angle where the scratch doesn't really show up, you know? So I think just being very clear with your pictures is one simple way. And obviously there's lots of ways as far as like inside of your writing, but being very clear with the pictures that there's no question about what people are getting. Because occasionally I still get customers who say, you know, those pictures didn't, you know, weren't accurate to the item. And it's like, well, it kind of was, but I can only imagine how many more I'd get if you were intentionally trying to cover flaws.
You may
like
still take good pictures. I took good pictures of an item, and somebody said like your pictures were far better than the item I received, which was not the case, but it happens sometimes. You know?
That's just buyer's remorse, I think.
Yeah, no,
because in their head,
it definitely was.
Because you know, when they look at that picture, their imagination is going right, like, oh, I can see myself wearing this shirt
into the room and stuff,
right? Like they're seeing themselves in the shirt, and they can see how good it looks, and then they put it on and look at themselves in the mirror.
Oh, that's happened.
You know what I mean? It's like,
I get it.
I don't look as good, and then they blame it on the product instead of themselves or whatever the situation is.
I know that was one of my latest returns. It was a Ray Spooner shirt, and they said this doesn't look professional enough. It's too worn. And I'm like, well, okay, the pictures are pretty clear. Maybe you didn't shave that day. I don't know. Okay, but okay. I also wanted to address the use of language. Okay, first of all, yeah, pictures, you're right. Like pictures are huge. And, you know, if it's too much, like let's say you have like 20 flaws, sometimes it's best just to take a few of them and then just say, hey, this has cosmetic wear throughout, right? See pics, blah, 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 and maybe in other areas, right? But and I've addressed this on Instagram before, but, you know, do you use words like excellent, or do you use words like a great or perfect or anything like that?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if it's always the best. I try to be clear with my language, but sometimes I know that those are the hook words, right, to pull people in, and probably not always maybe the best, but I think there is something to be said if something is used, but it is pristine, right? Like this is like, you can tell this thing is in perfect condition. Maybe it's used like one time somebody looked at it, right? You know, so I think you want to convey that, like, hey, I can't mark it as new because I'm going to be honest, but this is as new as you can get without it being like sealed in the package. And so I do think there's a place, but are you saying that maybe you shouldn't use those words?
I don't think you should. I don't think you should use the words. And this is my perspective. Again, if you have a different perspective, let us know below. But my belief is, you know, is it under promise and over deliver? Is that how it goes? They got that wrong.
No, that's a thing.
Right? It's a thing. And for me, it's like when you use words like excellent, like that's pretty subjective. Right? Excellent to one person may be different than to another person, right? Worn, right? Worn's a pretty good, you know, word. Like worn is worn, right? But so you're not trying to make it look better than it is. You're just saying this is where it's at, and then the person can make that judgment. But when we say excellent, like or when you use words like mint, like it better be mint.
Yeah,
I can see that. Saying? Like,
well, especially because some of those words carry, legal isn't the right phrase there, but they carry like very specific connotations to them, right? Like there were companies that would grade things and it had to be graded a certain condition to be considered mint, right? So then when you use that term mint, you're basically saying mine meets that standard. And it might not, right? And if it doesn't, that could be an issue. So yeah, I think you got to be careful with that. But I almost, is there something to be said for not under promise and over deliver, but promise accurately and deliver accurately? Like if you've got something that's in great condition, is it not worthwhile to?
But great condition to who? Like if, for instance, okay, so I'm a pretty low key kind of guy, right? So, and you know, I might have a shirt and might be worn, like let's say on my sleeve, right? And so, you know, to me, it's like that's an excellent use condition. There's a little bit of wear, but somebody who like, you know, remember we had that administrator that always dressed to the nines, like was clean cut and everything. Like to him, like that's terrible. Right. So excellent use condition to him means different than what it means to me.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of the problem with that is not having very like objective standards of like what meets what. But I do think yeah, if you use the term excellent, you should be saying that's equating it to like new. That's how I would in my mind. I'd be upset if I got something that said excellent condition and it came in like what you'd consider like something that's been used. Like one nice thing with Amazon, right? Like when I buy books, they have, and I know people set their own like
Yeah.
things, but there are very clear like new, like new, good, very good, and then like you can click on what very good means to them, and it'll tell you like some dog ears on pages. Maybe
So if you have descriptors like that in your listings, which would be not advisable because you want to keep your listings short and to the point, that could work. But and by the way, this is for all platforms. This is whether it's Amazon or Mercari or Posh or eBay. Like this apply. I will tell you, I've not had in my 6 years of really being serious about reselling, or 10 years of reselling, or whatever it's been. I've never had a condition issue because I've never had anybody say, you said this was excellent and it wasn't, or you said this was great and this isn't great. So I just strongly advise, like, don't be subjective. Like, make sure it's an objective thing. So you could say words like used but not abused, or you could say used, or you could say
that stuff's even more subjective though.
no, but okay. If a shirt is used and not abused, a shirt.
This is a well-loved shirt. Now that is up for interpretation,
no,
right?
That is, but it's a little bit better to me. I think it's a whole lot better than saying excellent or great or using EUC. Let us. I'm interested in what our listeners think.
Yeah.
So share in the comments below, because I 100% believe like under deliver. No, what is it? Under promise over. Under promise and over deliver is far better. Number one, it prevents issues, right? Because how many times do you get that awesome feedback like this is far better than even they said or the pictures? Like you'd rather get that review than somebody that goes or gives you a neutral and goes, well, they said it was excellent, but no, it wasn't that great.
Let me give you a story that kind of connects to that. So
Okay.
I sold a what do you call them? It's slipping my mind right now. So before DVDs, the big discs, what are they called?
Laserdisc?
Laserdisc.
Okay.
Yes. So I bought a Laserdisc player and I plugged it in at the store that I bought it from, and it turned on, it opened up. I'm okay, sweet. Like this thing probably works.
Yeah.
And even for parts, it was selling for a decent amount. I get it home. I bought a Laserdisc to test it, and I test it, and it wouldn't actually play. The disc would spin, but it wouldn't play. So I list it as broken. I explained everything, like turns on, these lights all work, it opens, it closes, but the disc itself doesn't play, like it gets stuck on. So I described everything. So I said, this is for parts or repair only, used, right? And somebody pays for it. They bought it. They didn't even haggle. And the shipping was expensive because this thing was a big thing, right? And so I was just happy to get it out of my house. I packaged it like it was good, right? Like I used so much bubble wrap. I think I used like the really thick stuff. I used like 4 sheets of that. Then I used paper, and then I like floated that inside of another box, right? Like this thing was like for a used thing.
Packing.
I was even thinking to myself, like, man, like this is a lot of packing for something that's like for parts, right? But I'm like, I'd rather send it like
you
this.
gotta be careful.
Yeah. But then I'm not going to lie, in the back of my mind, I was like, but the nice thing is like, I don't have to worry about this getting to somebody and them saying like, it's broken, doesn't work. Right. Like, cause I'm selling it to them knowing it doesn't work. So they get it, and they immediately send me a message saying that it was terrible packaging, that it wasn't, right? Like they're complaining. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm confused. And I said, could you please send a picture of like, the condition that it arrived in, like with and they were like, no, it's fine. Like it arrived fine, but like the packaging, like it could have used more paper. Like they made a few comments, right? So I was just like, please send me pictures. Like I'd like to see and they sent me a picture of the outside of the box with like a scratch in the outside of the box, like nothing on the inside, right? So it was just this. So I was expecting,
which could have happened anywhere between leaving your place and getting to them.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking like, man, I'm gonna get a negative review. I ended up getting a positive review, and the person just said like, could have used more packaging, right? So, and I think I mentioned before, and you said you should have that taken off, even though
you should. Well, they give you a neutral, right?
No, well, I do have a neutral, but that one they gave me positive. They just said. But it was funny because I looked up online. I'm like, can like something for parts and that's broken, like being sold as that way be like, can you get in trouble for it? So I'm trying to look stuff up, and I saw some pretty funny things that people explained what they put when they sell stuff that are for parts only or repair. And I saw one description that was hilarious, and I kind of want to use it from now on. It's like, you are buying a piece of junk. this thing is terrible.
I think
know
it's
that you're buying
super
something.
underpromising.
No, it was like it was like this thing, like they explained like
this is trash.
Take pictures. Yeah, like this thing looks like it's been run over by a truck. It's going to be shipped USPS, so expect that it will get run over by another truck.
Oh wow.
Like just totally like hilarious, like a lot of sarcasm and funny. And they said like that's how they send that stuff. And the nice thing with doing that is if they were to ever complain that, you know, something went wrong, like I feel like at that point eBay would have to look at it and say like, no, literally in their description, they said you're buying junk. This is trash. Like basically don't even buy this. Buy it at your own risk. It's going to arrive busted.
So
Like,
that's kind of like the other,
that's the other
pendulum
extreme,
going
sure.
like all the way to
no,
the
that's
side.
under promising.
That is definitely under
This item will probably arrive.
Okay, so I'm not
destroyed.
saying go that route, but I'm saying, hey, you know what? If it's kind of like one of those things where, you know, you get those messages sometimes like, so how does this shoe fit to your feet? And it's like, well, I'm not going to answer that because I don't say that. I usually say, hey, appreciate the question. Unfortunately, everybody, you know, likes their shoes fitting differently, so I can't give you an accurate assessment.
Yeah.
And that's it. Just because if you begin to go, oh, these are, you know, smaller to the size.
Now, I think there's something
you
to be
get
said
stuff
for
into
if you
place.
know like brands like, and I think this is very specific if you know what you're selling. So like, for instance, I really like Allbirds shoes. Allbirds shoes run a little bit small, I think it is, right?
But
So if I were to sell,
what if you have feet that don't?
no, but that's not your feet. That's just like general. Like people know like certain places, certain like if you buy from this company, they run a little big, they run a little small. So people put in descriptions like this is a small. Be aware, whatever brand tends to run smaller than average, right? So people know, and I'm not saying that you should do that for everything, because you can't say like this will fit you great.
I would say totally avoid it, 100%. Don't even go down on that road.
Well, I wouldn't if you're selling one-offs, but if you are like a seller of a certain brand and you've got a lot of them, and you know that this brand tends to like if 40% of the people
like a Reebok.
Sure, we'll just use an example. But like, if you know that you're constantly getting people say like, this is too small, this is too small. You look up on forums and everyone's like, size 11 Reeboks are actually like 10 and a half, right?
No, okay, I see what you're saying.
So if it's just like generally understood, then you should put that out there. That way, when somebody buys it and says, oh, this doesn't fit, it's not the right size, it's too small, you can say, well, actually, it is the right size. You knew that when you bought it, that you need to size up.